She looked at the officer instead of me. I was scared of what he would do. I almost laughed, but I kept my face still. "Officer," I said, "please ask her why she brought a suitcase, why her passport drawer is empty, and why the man behind her messaged her, 'Once the money clears, leave before he wakes up.'" Daniel's face changed completely. My wife turned around and hissed, "Daniel, don't say anything." The officer looked toward him. "Sir, I'll need you to stay where you are." Daniel raised both hands. "I didn't touch any money." "No," I said. "You just told her how to move it." He glared at me. "You don't know what you're talking about." I opened the folder and pulled out the printed message. Then I walked down the porch steps and handed it to the officer through the gate. My wife looked like she wanted to snatch it away. The officer read it silently. His expression changed. Not dramatically, not loudly, but enough. He looked at Daniel. "Is this your number?" Daniel swallowed. "I want a lawyer." My wife's face went pale. That was when she understood Daniel wasn't going to save her. He was going to save himself. The officer turned back to me. "Sir, do you have proof of the transfers?" "Yes." I showed him the bank notifications on my phone, one after another. 40,000, 68,000, 30,000, smaller withdrawals, a new device added, login attempts blocked. Then I showed him the freeze confirmation from my private banker. My wife started crying again. "Please," she said, but this time she wasn't looking at the officer. She was looking at me. "Don't do this here. Not like this." I stared at her through the gate. "Funny," I said quietly. "You had no problem doing it while I slept." Her lips trembled. I panicked. "No," I said. "You packed." The officer asked, "Ma'am, where were you going tonight?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Daniel looked away. The silence answered for both of them. Then another car pulled up behind the police cruiser. A black sedan. My attorney stepped out, wearing a long coat over his suit, holding a tablet in one hand. Mr. Bennett didn't rush. He never rushed. He walked toward us like a man who had already seen the ending and was simply arriving to confirm it. My wife whispered, "You called him too?" I looked at her. "I told you, I was awake the whole time." Mr. Bennett reached the gate and nodded to the officer. Then he turned to my wife. "Mrs. Harris," he said calmly, "you are being formally notified that all shared financial access is now suspended pending review. Any attempt to move, hide, or spend transferred funds after this point will be documented." She shook her head. "You can't do that." Mr. Bennett's eyes were cold. "We already did." Daniel suddenly moved toward the SUV. The officer raised his voice. "Sir, stop." Daniel froze. My wife turned on him instantly. "Where are you going?" He didn't answer, and that was the final crack. The man she had trusted with her escape was ready to abandon her in my driveway. I watched the truth hit her face, not just that she had been caught, but that she had risked everything for a coward. She looked back at me, tears falling now for real. "I made a mistake," she whispered. I shook my head. "No, a mistake happens once. This took planning." Mr. Bennett handed the officer another document. "We'll be filing an emergency report first thing this morning. The bank has already flagged the transfers." The officer nodded. My wife gripped the gate with both hands. "Can I at least come inside?" I looked at the house behind me, the home I had built, the home she tried to empty before sunrise. Then I looked back at her. "No," I said, "not tonight." Her face collapsed. For years she had keys to everything. My heart, my house, my trust, my money. And in one night, she lost access to all of it. The officer began asking her more questions. Daniel stood silent, trapped beside the SUV. Mr. Bennett stayed calm at my side. And me? I turned around and walked back toward the house. Behind me, my wife called my name again. But this time, the sound didn't hurt. It only reminded me why I had locked the door. Bilkul Bai, Ye Rahab Part 3, 400 words. Part 3. I closed the front door behind me, but I didn't lock it right away. For a moment, I just stood there in the silence of the house, listening to the muffled voices outside. My wife was crying. Daniel was arguing with the officer. Mr. Bennett was speaking calmly, probably explaining the paperwork in that cold, professional tone that made panic sound useless. And me, I felt nothing at first. Not anger, not sadness, just a strange emptiness. The kind of emptiness that comes after a storm finally hits, and you realize the damage was always there. The storm only exposed it. I walked back into my office and placed the folder on the desk. The screen of my second phone was still glowing with alerts. The bank had frozen the transferred money before it could fully clear. My wife had moved fast, but not fast enough. Then a new notification appeared. Attempted withdrawal denied. I stared at it. She was still trying. Even outside the gate, even with the police there, even after being caught, she was still trying to pull money from an account she no longer controlled. That was when the emptiness disappeared. Not into rage, into certainty. I picked up the phone and called my private banker. "Block every account connected to her device," I said. "Already in progress, sir." Flag Daniel too. A short pause. "Already done." I ended the call and looked toward the window. Outside, my wife was sitting on the curb now, her suitcase beside her. The same suitcase she had packed to start a new life with another man. Now it looked like evidence. Daniel was standing near the SUV with his hands on his head while the officer questioned him. Then my wife looked up at the house. Our eyes met through the window. For a second, she stopped crying. Maybe she expected me to come out. Maybe she thought the sight of her broken would still soften me. The old me would have opened the door. The old me would have said, "Come inside, we'll talk." But the old me didn't know about Daniel. The old me didn't know about the transfers. The old me didn't know she had kissed me goodnight just hours before trying to rob me blind. My phone buzzed again. A message from her. "Please, I made a mistake. Don't let them take me away." I looked at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. "You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice." I pressed send. Outside, she read it. Her face crumbled. And finally, I locked the door. Bilkul by Ye Raha, last part, 300 words. Last part. The next morning, the house felt different. Not empty, clean. For the first time, there was no pretending in the walls. No fake laughter from the kitchen. No soft voice calling me baby while hiding a plan behind my back. Just silence, honest silence. Mr. Bennett called at 9. "The bank recovered most of the money," he said. "The attempted withdrawals are fully documented. Daniel is already distancing himself from her." I wasn't surprised. Cowards always run when the plan fails. "What about her?" I asked. There was a pause. "She's asking for a private meeting." I looked through the window at the driveway where she had stood only hours earlier, with a suitcase, another man, and my stolen money. "No," I said. "Everything goes through you now." After the call ended, I walked into the bedroom. Her side of the closet was half empty. The drawers were open. A few things were left behind. Perfume, old photos, a bracelet I had given her on our first anniversary. I picked up the bracelet. For a second, I remembered the woman I thought I married. Then I remembered the woman who drained our account while I slept. I placed the bracelet in the drawer and closed it. Later that afternoon, she sent one final message. "I lost everything." I stared at those 3 words. Then I typed back, "No, you lost access to everything you tried to steal." I blocked her number. Not out of anger, out of peace. That night, I sat alone in my office, looking at the restored balance in the account, the locked files, the secured house, and the new life waiting beyond all this damage. She thought emptying the account would break me. She thought leaving overnight would destroy me. But all she did was reveal the truth. And once I saw the truth, I locked her out of everything, including me. At 3:17 in the morning, my phone lit up beside the bed. At first, I thought it was just another bank notification. Then I saw the words on the screen. "Transfer completed, $148,000. I sat up so fast my heart nearly stopped. Our joint account, the account we had built for 10 years, the money for our home, our bills, our future, was almost empty. And beside me, my wife's side of the bed was cold. I opened the banking app with shaking hands. One transfer, then another, then another. Every dollar had been moved overnight into an account I didn't recognize. I called her phone, straight to voicemail. Then I saw the final notification. "New device added to your account." That was when I knew this wasn't panic. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. I ran downstairs, opened the garage door, and her car was gone. Her suitcase was gone. Even the jewelry box I bought her on our anniversary was missing. But she made one mistake. She thought I was the same quiet husband who trusted her blindly. She thought I would cry, beg, call the police, and wait helplessly while she disappeared with everything. But what she didn't know was that 3 months earlier, I had already seen the first sign of betrayal. A hidden email, a fake business trip, a message from a man named Daniel saying, "Once the money clears, leave before he wakes up." So while she was emptying our joint account overnight, I was waiting for the final proof. I picked up my second phone, opened the security app, and pressed one button. Her credit cards froze. Her business access disappeared. Her name vanished from every property file I legally controlled. The house locks changed. The company accounts locked. Even the private investment account she never knew was mine went into full protection mode. And then, at 3:41 a.m., she finally called me. Her voice was shaking. "Why can't I get into anything?" I looked at the empty side of the bed and smiled. Then I said calmly, "Because you emptied the wrong account." At 3:41 in the morning, my wife finally called. I was sitting on the edge of our bed, fully dressed, holding my phone in one hand and staring at the empty space where she used to sleep. The room was dark except for the cold blue light of the banking app glowing on my screen. The joint account was almost empty. 10 years of savings, gone. Mortgage money, emergency money, business reserve money. The money we had built together while I worked late nights, skipped vacations, and told myself that sacrifice was what a man did for his family. And the woman I called my wife had moved it all while I slept. Or at least, while she thought I slept. My phone vibrated again. Her name flashed across the screen. For a few seconds, I just watched it ring. There was something strange about that moment. I should have felt panic. I should have felt rage. I should have been running around the house, yelling, calling banks, calling police, begging someone to stop the transfers before it was too late. But I didn't. Because this wasn't the beginning of her betrayal. This was just the moment she finally became careless enough to prove it. I answered the call and said nothing. On the other end, I heard wind, a car door, her breathing, fast and uneven. Then her voice came through. "Why can't I get into anything?" No hello, no explanation, no fake concern, just panic. I looked toward the bedroom window, where the city outside was still sleeping, and I smiled slightly. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Don't play with me," she snapped, but her voice shook. "My cards are frozen. My business login isn't working. The house app kicked me out. Even my phone says I'm no longer authorized." I stood slowly and walked across the bedroom to the dresser. Her jewelry box was gone. The drawer where she kept her passport was open. Half her closet was empty. She had planned this like an escape, but she had planned it badly. "Sounds serious," I said. There was a pause. Then she lowered her voice. "What did you do?" I looked at myself in the mirror. Dark suit pants, black shirt, no tie, calm face, steady eyes. I didn't look like a man who had just been robbed by his own wife. I looked like a man who had been waiting. "What did I do?" I repeated. "That's interesting." She breathed harder. "I'm not joking. Neither am I." Another silence. Then came the softer voice, the one she used when anger didn't work. The voice she used when she wanted me to question myself. "Baby, listen, something happened. I can explain." I almost laughed. For years I had believed that voice. I had softened for it. I had apologized when I wasn't wrong. I had stayed quiet when my instincts screamed, because I loved her, because I trusted her, because I believed marriage meant patience. But patience becomes foolishness when the other person mistakes your love for weakness. "You emptied our joint account," I said calmly. She didn't answer. That silence told me everything. I walked out of the bedroom and down the stairs. Every light in the house turned on automatically as I moved through the hallway. The house felt too quiet without her in it, but not lonely, not anymore. In the kitchen, her coffee mug was still sitting near the sink. The same mug she had used hours earlier when she kissed my cheek and said she was exhausted. She had kissed me while planning to disappear. I picked up the mug and stared at the lipstick mark on the rim. "Where are you?" I asked. "That doesn't matter. It does if you took my money." "Our money," she said quickly. "No," I said. "That's where you made your first mistake." She went quiet again. I walked into my home office and opened the drawer beneath my desk. Inside was a second phone. Not my regular phone, not the one she knew about. This one had only 3 contacts saved in it: my attorney, my private banker, and the head of security for my company. The screen was already lit. 3 confirmations were waiting: cards frozen, property access revoked, business permissions terminated, joint account activity flagged. I had pressed one button, and the life she thought she could steal had locked itself away from her. Her voice came back sharper now. "You can't just lock me out of my own life." I sat down behind my desk. "You locked yourself out when you tried to leave with everything." "I was scared," she said. That word, scared. It came so easily from people who got caught. "You weren't scared at 2:58 a.m. when you transferred $40,000, I said. "You weren't scared at 3:06 when you moved another $68,000. You weren't scared at 3:13 when you added a new device to the account. You were very calm then. Her breathing stopped. I opened the folder on my desk. Inside were printed emails, screenshots, and bank alerts. At the top was the message I had found 3 months ago. Once the money clears, leave before he wakes up. Daniel. That name sat in my mind like a blade. At first when I saw it, I didn't want to believe it. I told myself maybe Daniel was a colleague, maybe it was a misunderstanding, maybe I had become suspicious for no reason. Then I found the hotel receipt, then the hidden credit card, then the fake business conference she had never attended, and finally, the draft transfer instructions hidden in her cloud folder. That was the day I stopped confronting and started documenting. Because the truth is, when someone is already lying, asking them for honesty only teaches them to hide better. So I waited. And tonight, she gave me everything. "Who is Daniel?" I asked. The line went dead silent. Not even wind now, just fear. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "How do you know that name?" I leaned back in my chair. "There it is. Listen to me," she said quickly. "You don't understand what's going on." "I understand perfectly." "No, you don't. Daniel was helping me." "With what?" She hesitated. "With getting away." The words were meant to hurt me. I knew that. She wanted to turn herself into a victim before I could call her what she was. But I had no interest in playing the role she had written for me. "Getting away from what?" I asked. "The house I paid for? The car I bought you? The business account I gave you access to? The marriage where I trusted you enough to put your name beside mine?" She started crying, not loudly, just enough for me to hear it. "You changed," she whispered. I looked around my office. The framed certificates, the contracts, the shelves full of files she had never bothered to understand. She had enjoyed the comfort my work created, but never respected the discipline behind it. "No," I said. I woke up. Suddenly, another notification appeared on my screen. Security camera alert. Front gate motion detected. I opened the camera feed. A black SUV was stopped outside my gate. My wife stood beside it, wearing the beige coat she kept for business trips. Her suitcase was on the ground. A man sat in the driver's seat. Daniel. My wife was not at an airport. She was outside my house, trying to get back in. I looked at the camera, then back at the call. "You're at the gate," I said. She froze. "I can see you." Her head snapped up toward the security camera. For the first time that night, I saw her face clearly. Panic. Real panic. Not because she regretted betraying me, because her escape had failed. "Open the gate," she demanded. "No, this is my house too. Not after what you just triggered." "What does that mean?" I stood and picked up the folder. "It means the emergency asset protection clause activated the moment you drained the account and attempted unauthorized transfers." She stared into the camera like she could break it with her eyes. "You set me up?" I walked toward the front door slowly. "No," I said. "I protected myself." Behind her, Daniel stepped out of the SUV, tall, nervous, looking around like he had just realized he was standing in the wrong man's driveway. "Good." My wife turned and said something to him, but the camera didn't catch the words. I didn't need it to. I reached the front door but didn't open it yet. Instead, I spoke into the phone one last time. "You wanted to leave before I woke up." I unlocked the deadbolt, but I was awake the whole time. Then I opened the door. Across the driveway, my wife's face went pale. And behind me, the red and blue lights of a police car began flashing at the end of the street. The police lights reflected across my driveway like a warning written in red and blue. My wife stood frozen near the gate, her suitcase beside her, her phone still pressed against her ear. Daniel was standing a few feet behind her, trying to look calm, but his face had already betrayed him. He kept glancing at the police car, then at me, then back at the SUV like he was calculating how fast he could disappear. I stepped out onto the front porch, still holding the folder. My wife shouted from the gate, "You called the police on me?" I looked at her calmly. "You emptied a joint account in the middle of the night, added an unknown device, attempted to access protected business funds, and showed up here with the man who told you to leave before I woke up." Her face twisted. "That money was mine too." "Some of it," I said, "not all of it." Daniel finally spoke. "Look, man, this is between you and your wife." I turned my eyes to him. "No," I said. "The moment your name appeared in transfer instructions, hotel receipts, and messages about taking my money, you became part of it." His mouth closed. The police officer stepped out of the car and approached the gate. He was calm, professional, and careful, like he already understood he was walking into something ugly. "Sir," he said, looking at me. Are you the homeowner who called? Yes. My wife immediately jumped in. Officer, this is my house too. He's locked me out. He's controlling my cards. He's trying to trap me because our marriage is failing. There it was, the performance. The same voice she used at dinner parties, the same wounded expression she gave whenever she needed people to see her as innocent. But tonight her timing was too late. I held up the folder. Officer, I have bank alerts, transfer records, messages, and security footage. I also have my attorney on standby. My wife's eyes widened. You don't need to show him anything. I looked at her. You were willing to take everything from me. Don't ask me for privacy now. The officer turned to her. Ma'am, did you transfer money from the joint account tonight? She hesitated. That 1 second was enough. I moved money for safety, she said. For safety, I repeated.